Hello, in this video I'm going to go through all the cards that were included in the Witherbloom Pestilence Commander deck, focused on strategic sacrifices and life gain and life drain. There are two face commanders for this deck, and you guys choose between which you'd like to play. First is Dina Essence Brewer. For 1 black and a green, it's a 2/3. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Importantly, it's on each turn, not only on your turn. For 2 tap, you can sacrifice another creature, you gain X, and you put X plus encounters on target creature you control, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. The other face commander is Gorma the Gullet. For 1 black and a green, it's a 1/1 with lifelink. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a plus encounter on Gorma. Non-token creatures you control enter with an additional plus encounter on them for each creature that died under your control this turn. So both commanders care about sacrificing things and putting plus encounters onto our creatures. Dina specifically gains this life, and Gorma has lifelink, so they both support a life gain theme. Merchant of Venom is some of the new cards printed in each commander deck. I'm going to go through all the new cards first. For Merchant of Venom, it's a 4 mana 1/1 with Menace. When this creature enters, each player sacrifices a creature of their choice. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, put a plus counter on this creature. So this creature will enter. Each player will sacrifice 1, and it'll enter with 4 plus encounters as long as the player has a creature to sacrifice. So this is a 4 mana, essentially 5/5 with Menace that makes each player sacrifice a creature. Pretty good. Defiling Demiogoth is 3 black for a 5/4 with Menace. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life, for X is the amount of life you gain this turn. Now, this card is specifically great with Dina, since Dina actively has the activated ability that gains us life whenever we sacrifice things. Gorma takes a different route and encourages us to have a tact, which isn't bad to do with the end step. Back to Merchant of Venom, I think Merchant of Venom is better with Gorma the Gullet than with Dina, right? So you're making players sacrifice things, you're putting plus counters on things, but Gorma the Gullet specifically wants us to make big creatures. Omnious Harvest is 2 and a black for a sorcery with Gravestorm. Whenever you cast a spell, copy for each permanent put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn. So that counts sacrificing things dying in combat. Target player draws a card and loses a life. So this is good as a reward for either creature, but Dina actively has that sacrifice trigger that I think is going to be played better there. Sustained Sanguinist is 1 and a black for a 2/2. Whenever you attack, target creature gains Death Touch. When that creature deals combat damage to a player this turn, this creature becomes prepared. And Sanguinate is X black, and it's its prepared spell. Fantastic spell. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Fantastic card. Giving a Death Touch means that they're either not going to block it, or if they do block, you could attack the player whose block wouldn't be profitable, right? And then guarantees something dies for Gorma. Feral Appetite is 2 and a green. Attacking pests get +1/+0 and have Death Touch, and you can pay 1 and a green to exile target card from a graveyard. If a creature card is exiled this way, you make a 1/1 pest. So when this token dies, you gain a life. Good with Gorma, good with Dina, good both ways. Pest Rescuer is 2 and a green for a 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you don't control a pest, create a pest, and when it dies, you gain a life. And if you would gain a life, you gain that much +1. This is like Ophiomancer that makes a snake with Death Touch each turn. Each upkeep, it checks to see if you already have a pest, and if you don't, it makes you one, and gives you something to sacrifice each turn, which is fantastic for Dina Essence Brewer. Riptross Roaster is 4 and a green for a 3/3 with Devour 1. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of pests equal to the number of +1/+1 encounters on this creature. So as you put more +1/+1 encounters on this thing as the game goes on, it just keeps spitting out more pests, which is honestly good with both face commanders, right? Gorma the Gullet will have an enter with additional ones, and Dina Essence Brewer can put additional ones on it. Eccentric Pest Finder is 2 black and a green for a 5/5 with Trample, so 4/4 Trample 5/5. For 4 mana Trample 5/5, sorry. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain life, this creature becomes prepared. But its prepared spell is a sorcery. It's Turnstones for black and green, so you can't activate this on each player's turn. For each opponent, you create a pest. That's it. Just makes you sacrifice outlets. But it checks constantly to see if you gained life. Immoral Bargain is 1 black-green. As additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice X creatures, destroy X target non-land permanents. You can hit enchantments, planeswalkers, battles, whatever you need to destroy, or even just creatures by sacrificing X creatures, which is great with both commanders, honestly. Dina wants to sacrifice a bunch of pests, and Gorma the Gullet wants us to be sacrificing things, so the follow-up spell is only 3 mana. The follow-up spell is a nice big one. And they're printing some cool lands into this. Turbulent Fen is a land swamp forest with tap, add black or green, because it's a swamp forest. I don't really know why I read that. This land enters tapped unless your opponents control 8 or more lands. So that's the total of your opponents. You don't have to have an opponent with 8 or more lands. It's just if your 3 opponents have a total of 8 lands, it comes into play on tapped. Ophiomancer, great reprint. I don't love this art as much though. It's 3 mana for a 2/2. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no snakes, make a 1/1 snake with Death Touch. It gives us just constant, repeatable sacrifice outlets and chump blockers, which is great. Toxic Deluge, as additional cost to cast a spell, pay selects life. All creatures get -X/-X. This will kill your own things, but it's a great reprint with really huge art. Tender Shoot Dryad. At the beginning of each upkeep, make a 1/1 Saproling, and then Saprolings get +2/+2 as long as you controlled 10 or more permanents. You know, we're going to get into some fun cards that's going to want us to be sacrificing all of these things, but we're making 1/1 Saprolings, we're making 1/1 Snakes, we're making 1/1 Pests. And, it's important to remember you're not going to have all of these every game, but having so many in the deck is going to make sure you get one most of the time. Fabled Passage, great reprint. Blight, Mound is 2 in the black. Attacking pests get +1/+0 and have menace. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, make a pest. So you sacrifice something to either of your commanders or any other ability, you get another creature that you can sacrifice. Bloodghast, black, 2/1, can block. It has haste as long as an opponent controls 10 or more life. Originally printed into standard, not really a commander card, but whenever a land enters, you can return it from your grave to the battlefield. Just a repeatable sacrifice outlet is fantastic. Final act, choose 1 or more, destroy all creatures, all battles, all planeswalkers, exile all graveyards, or each opponent loses all counters. Good way to hit experience counters. Experience counters are hard to hit. That's why I have an experience counter deck. Jadar, Gold Collar of Nephalia, is 1 and a black for a 1/1. At the beginning of your end step, if you control no creatures with decay, create a 2/2 zombie with decay. This only checks on your end step, but it's a cheap spell that can just keep spit, now the zombie is free to sacrifice. And these have 2 power, so they're actually better for Dina than the 1/1s. Nether Trader, black, Haste Shadow. Whenever another creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you can play black. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Token cards do enter the graveyard, so you can sacrifice a pest, pay a black, and get this back. Just as an FYI. Priest of the Forgotten Gods, 1 and a black for a 1/2. Sack 2 other creatures. Any number of target players each lose 2. Sack a creature of their choice. You add 2 black, and you draw a card. Tons of value to this card. I remember playing this card in standard, and it was fantastic. Smothering Abomination is 2 black for a 4/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, sack a creature. Whenever you sack a creature, draw a card. Doesn't trigger only once each turn. This just keeps happening, which is great. Every pest you get rid of draws you a card, which is a lot of value. There's so many cheap ways to make them in this deck. Vain Witch Coven is 2 and a green for a 3/3. Whenever you gain life, you may pay black. If you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Pretty good. Witch of the Moors is 3 black for a 4/4 with Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, each opponent sacrifices a creature of their choice, and you return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Now compare if you gain life in this deck. Every time a pest dies, you gain life, and you have ways to sacrifice things. Woe Strider enters, makes a goat. It's a sacrifice outlet, scry 1. This is just fantastic. 3 sacrifice outlets in this deck are going to be great with all of our pest generators, snake generators, Eldrazi token generators, Saproling generators. Just sacrificing them even for just a little bit of value. Scry 1. Even if you know you already like the card, just gives you another one the next turn, which is another death trigger and another enters trigger. And this can escape itself from the graveyard. Yahenni, Dying Partisan, is 2 and a black for a 2/2. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 on this, and you can sacrifice another creature to give it indestructible. Another cheap sacrifice outlet. Awakening Zone, every turn, you get an Eldrazi spawn. Blooming Bog Beast is 4 and a green for a 3/3. Whenever this creature attacks, you gain 2. Then creatures you control get trample and +1/+1 until end of turn, or X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So every time this attacks, it guarantees everything gets +2/+2 and trample. And if you've lost a pest before, you had a gain lifeland enter, whatever it is, they get even bigger. It's good to make all of your 1/1s into 3/3s at a minimum. Gilded Goose enters and makes a food, and you can sacrifice the food to add 1 mana of any color. That's another token, another thing you can sacrifice. Michaeloth is 3 green for a 4/4 with Devour 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 for each ++ counter on this creature. Fantastic with Gorma, fantastic with Dina. Both put plus and plus counters on things. All-around Frostfane is 3 green for a 2/4. Attacking creatures you control have double strike, death touch, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That ability is fantastic. I stuck this in all of my like little token decks. Usually they're like my white, red, green, gold deck. Whenever creatures combat damage to a player, draw a card. Just an insane amount of value. Plus, all of your 1/1s are no longer blocked by 3/3s or 4/4s. So you know, I'll block those 3 and take the rest because they all have death touch. They'll kill their things. Pest Infestation, great card, XX green. Destroy up to X target artifacts and/or enchantments. Create twice X 1/1 pests. Pretty good. Trudge Garden. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. If you do make a 4/4 fungus, not a huge fan of this card, but it is good, and it's good with Gorma the Gullet because those 4/4s can enter with multiple plus and plus counters on them. And I guess you can also sacrifice them to Dina to put 4 the gain 4, put 4 plus and plus counters on something. Okay, maybe the card's better. I just don't like this card. It feels so slow, right? It doesn't do anything until you've paid 5 and gained a life, and then you get a 4/4. I don't know, but it's good in both, I guess. Assassin Trophy, great card. Bellajo's Witherbloom. I love that they reprinted the Elder Dragons for each color pair into the commander decks. For 5 green and a black, it's a 4/4 with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this token dies, you gain 1 life, and pay 10, untap all lands. So you're getting tons of instances of life. There's no problem of just untapping everything and letting you cast another big spell. You can also tap out for Witherbloom, play Witherbloom, pay 10 life, untap everything, and it's another card to generate a pest every turn. Casualties of War with some cool art for 2 black, green. Choose 1 or more. Destroy target artifact, destroy target creature, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, destroy target planeswalker. Choose whatever you need to get rid of and get rid of them. Creekwood Liege is 1 black or green. It gives black creatures +1, green creatures +1, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a 1/1 worm. It's just more sacrifice outlets. Culling Ritual, great CDH card. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. The great thing is you have tons of tokens. You'll destroy your own stuff and just ramp and ritual into a ton of mana. Gnome Master Chief is Gaiome. 2 black, green for a 5/3 with trample. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you add into the battlefield this turn. You can sacrifice your food to give target creature indestructible and cap it. Mazarek, Cruel Grawl, Death Priest. It's 3 black and a green for a 2/2 with flying. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a plus counter on each creature you control. That counts you, they count your opponents. They sacrifice their treasure, put a plus counter on your team. You sacrifice a pest, put a plus counter on their team. Someone does something that each player sacrifices a creature, put a 4 plus counters on your team. White of the Reliquary is black and a green for a 2/2. This creature gets +1/+1 for each creature in your graveyard. You can tap, sack another creature, just search your library for a land card, put it into play tapped. A sacrifice outlet that rams you is fantastic. Witherbloom Command, black and green. Choose 2. Target player mills 3, then you return a land from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Target creature gets -3/-1 until end of turn. Target opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. So it gets you a land back and destroys a mana rock. Arcane Signet, ramp, Soul Reed, ramp. Teacher's Pest is black and green for a 1/1. Menace, whenever this creature attacks, you gain a life, and you can pay black and a green to bring it back from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, giving you another sacrifice thing you can keep doing. Witherbloom Charm, black and a green, choose 1. Sack a permanent, draw 2, gain 5, destroy target non-land permanent, including creatures with mana value 2 or less. You can destroy a cheap creature, like a core, one of the cores that let you +2/+2 for each equipment attached to it. You could sacrifice a pest to draw 2, tons of value all over the place. Titan's Grave, repeatable surveil, is good, onto a land. Blood Artist, whenever this creature or another creature dies, target player loses life and you gain a life. This is a way to win from sacrificing all of your things. Infernal Grasp, destroy something, gain 2. 2 mana for this effect is super cheap and nice. Morbid Opportunist, whenever one or more creatures die, draw a card. This can be from sacrificing, or this can just be from combat. If your opponent attacks a 4/4 into your opponent's 4/4, creature dies, you draw a card. Night's Whisper, draw 2, lose 2. Not a big deal to lose because you're gaining so much life with your pests. Pawn of Ulamog, whenever this or another non-token creature dies, make an Eldrazi, so that can ramp you or just keep being more sacrifice outlets for you. Plum the Forbidden is 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, copy the spell for each creature you sacrifice this way. Draw 1, lose 1. You can sacrifice a bunch of pests to draw a bunch of life. draw a bunch of cards, and lose a bunch of life. Umbral Collar Zealot, fast reprint. Sacrifice another creature artifact, surveil 1. Tons of value there. Viscera Seer, sacrifice a creature, scry 1. These are just ways to make sure you're utilizing those saplings, those Eldrazi, those pests that you're making. Zulaport Cutthroat, whenever this or another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 and you gain 1. Great card. Cultivate, good to ramp. Elvish Mystic, good to ramp, and it's a sacrifice out later. Steve is a self-sacrifice, so it'll ramp you, but it also counts as a sacrifice. You don't have to spend any resources on, after you've cast it, of course. Spring Bloom Druid. Enters, sack a land, get 2 basic lands. It's a sacrifice. Deadly Brew, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker of their choice. If you sacrifice a permanent fight, return another permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Each player sacrificing something is great. Now they can just sacrifice a token, but it counts as sacrificing for all of your stuffs. Dina's Soul Steeper. Whenever you gain a life, each opponent loses a life, and you can pay 1 to sacrifice another creature to give +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. How far Dina has come. The new card is phenomenally better. Now, Dina's Soul Steeper is a better combo card, gain 1, each one loses 1. But good, just more incidental life loss is good for your game, because it's going to kill your opponents. Molder Vine Reclamation. It's 3 black and a green. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 and draw a card. This counts your tokens. Mortality Spear. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you gained life this turn. Destroy target non-land permanent. Haywire Might. Self-sacrifice to exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. And when it dies, it gains you life, which triggers all of your life gain effects. Exotic Orchard. Untapped land is going to add either black or green, and the chances of one of your opponents now playing black and another of your opponents now playing green are so slim. Festering Thicket. This line enters tapped. Cycling 2. Good reprints. Grim Backwards is a sacrifice outlet on a land that lets you draw a card. High Market is a sacrifice outlet on a land that lets you gain a life. So that'll trigger your life gain stuff and it'll trigger your sacrifice outlets. Lador Wastes. Painland Necroblossom Snar is a reveal from your hand a swamp or a forest. Temple of Milady enters tapped and is scries. The filter lands, great filter land. Black or green tap, add black, 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 green, or green, green. Filter lands are great. Tamorphic Expanse lets you go get a basic land. Vernal Fen. This land enters tapped unless you control 2 more basic lands. There are plenty of basics printed in this deck. The Bog, put 1 into it, get a black and a green out. The check land. Bajuka Bog exiles a player's graveyard. Haunted Mire is just the 2 types we need, and it enters tapped. Command Tower with great art. Path of Ancestry. I don't know how often you're going to be casting a Dryad, a Druid, a Pest, or a Frog, but it is a tap land that adds the 2 mana, and if you happen to cast a Pest, or you happen to cast a Dryad or a Druid, you'll get to scry 1. Study Hall, super on theme, since we're on Strixhaven. 1 tap, add 1 mana of any color. When you spend this mana to cast your commander, you scry X, where X is the number of times you've been casting the commands of this game. Witherbloom Campus, this enters tapped. You add black or green, 4 tap, scry 1. It has 8 swamps and 8 forests in the deck. Now, those are all the cards printed in the deck. Which commander do I think is better? Probably Dina Essence Brewer. I just like the sacrifice outlets more than trying to create big creatures out of your tokens that are entering. But I could be wrong. But you let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which commander are you going to play? And if you'd like to check out another Strixhaven deck, on your screen now is the Silver Krill Precon that you can watch me walk through there. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thank you.